Hey guys, Mike with Long Range with the Lilies. I was talking with a buddy of mine the other day who dragged me out to a golf course just to prove to me how bad of a golfer I've become. But anyway, we were talking about a guy at his local club who is an amazing, phenomenal golfer at his local club. And then he kind of carries himself around like kind of a stud. And then what we've noticed though is when he goes someplace else and plays golf, a different club, he tends to drop off his performance. Well, the reason for that is, he gets an increase in performance because he knows that club and that golf course like the back of his hand. He knows every little subtle break in the green, every little, trick and shortcut. And, if you stand on this side of the tee box, you get a better angle, whatever. He's got a hometown advantage. I see a lot of this in shooting as well. So the question that we were talking about is how do you know if you're as good as you think you are or as good as your recent placements would indicate? Well, my answer to that question is does your game travel? Can you pick up your game, fly across the country to someplace you've never been, to a match director run match that you've never shot at, so you don't know the match director's style or what to expect? Can you do that and still place well? Um, that, I think, is the ultimate litmus test for how well you do as a shooter, how good you are. That coupled with shooting against the best in the nation. So this year, I made a commitment to shoot the hardest matches in the nation at all over the nation. I've shot on the East Coast, the Central Plains, the Rockies, up here back home in the Northwest, and I still have lots more traveling to do this year. I've been fortunate to be able to do that. Thankfully, COVID's over and we can enjoy our freedoms again. But traveling to those matches, to those fields, really, really, really contributed to my performance this year. At the beginning of the year, I went down to Oklahoma and just got my teeth kicked in. Like, yeah, I had some other things going on too, but it was a new venue with different kinds of wind and different kinds of environment, and it's kind of a different match feel altogether. It was the first time I'd shot an AG Cup match. It was super challenging. And I just got my teeth kicked in. All the best shooters in the country were there. And but I learned a lot from that. I learned some things I need to do better, some things I need to improve. And then more importantly, you could see where the best shooters in the world, where their performance was. And now I have a goal, a litmus that I can go against and say, okay, that's where I need to be. I'm here. I need to be there. And I think that that's important. One of the big things that I see is guys that are hometown heroes. They do really well at their local matches, especially like regional one-day matches. Uh, I see a lot of this, and then they travel or they go to even a different match in their region that's a national level match where better shooters show up and they just don't place as well. And then they get really, really down on themselves and they wonder why they had such a bad performance. Well, a lot of the time, and I know we don't like to hear this, they actually had a performance indicative of their ability and their shooting level. But when compared and contrasted to better shooters, national level shooters that travel in to shoot these matches, they just didn't place as well. Um, One great example that stands out in my mind is there are people that will go to a regional level match in an area when a national level match is going on, and then all the best shooters go to the national level match, and then these regional guy places, he's got like a podium finish, and he can't wait to post about it on social media and talk about how great it was, and then he'll go to a national level match and just get his stuff pushed in, and then he's wondering why he's shooting so poorly. So all of that goes back to being honest about your performance and honest about where you are. And it's really super hard to do, to take that hard look inside yourself and say, okay, I'm here. I mean, we've all done it. We've all shot a match and looked at the scorecard and said, man, if I hadn't made these, five boneheaded mistakes, I would have been here. I'm shooting good enough to be here. Well, the reality of it is you're not shooting good enough here because those five bonehead mistakes were the reason you weren't here. You have to eliminate those. And until you eliminate those, you are where you are. And that's just an ego thing. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not here to talk to you about that kind of stuff. But I'm telling you the importance of being honest with your performance. Earlier this year was a real gut check for me. I had two or three bad matches in a row. just didn't shoot well. And the reality is, yes, my performance is declining, and my challenge that I was accepting by shooting harder matches against better shooters was increasing, and that gap was soul crushing. But that gap was also what I needed to see to improve. And yes, I had a dip, but I've been climbing out of that dip and it steadily made me better. And I truly, truly believe that the reason I'm getting better and improving every day is because that I have traveled and I've been exposed to so many new things. Every time you travel and take on a different match director's challenges, it's going to expose another facet of your game, whether that's good or bad, or whether you're better at it than you thought you were, or you really find a flaw you need to work on. Um, it kind of makes you better. There are very few national level shooters that can take their game and travel all over the country and still compete for wins. It's a very small, select group of guys. I'm not going to name them because inevitably I would forget one and then they would call me out on it, and I'm not as good as any of those guys, so it's just really not worth the headache on my part. But trust me when I say that field is not as big as a lot of people make it out to be. Um, there's a lot of guys that compete, even on a national level, that really don't travel more than 5 or 6 hours from their house. I think it's a totally different thing when you can go from the East Coast to the West Coast or West Coast to the East Coast, pick your game up, go over there, and still place well. So that is kind of my litmus test on where your game is and are you as good as you think you are. Um, I think that this sport is one of the most mentally challenging sports out there. And I've said it before, I compare it a lot to golf. It requires a lot of mental resiliency, and it's super hard to be honest with yourself and, you know, be real about where you are as a shooter. But the only way to get better is to be real with yourself, to identify those weaknesses, because until you admit you have that problem or that deficiency or that thing you need to work on, it's never going to get better, and it's always going to be a hole in your game. And if you are trying to get to the top, you have to fix those small holes in your game, because inevitably somebody's going to find that hole and exploit it. By somebody, I mean a match director. Um, so I encourage you guys to travel, get out there, compete against the best guys in the world. It's super great to finish first or second in a local, regional one-day match and feel great about yourself. But if you are trying to get to that next level, I truly believe the only way to do that is to travel to these national matches. And I get it, guys. It's expensive. It's not easy to do. It's a headache getting on a plane with a firearm. It's not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be, but I met so many shooters that have never traveled on a plane with a rifle before. Even if you only schedule one match a year that's outside your comfort zone that you can travel to, I highly, highly encourage it. There are several matches out there all across the country that I really view as really good litmus tests. Find those matches that draw the top shooters in the nation, that expose a different environmental condition to you and different kind of problem sets, and go out there and check it out. If nothing else, it's a really great way to sort out your gear and to expose your rifle and gear to problems that you didn't maybe know that you had. For example, if I go to Utah, there's that dust that's down there, that like fine talcum powder dust, or worse, Oklahoma, that red dust that's down there on the western side of the state. Come up here to the Pacific Northwest and shoot in the rain. You may find out your load is not as water safe as you thought it was. Go someplace cold and shoot. Go someplace hot and shoot. Go someplace really windy. This one, I really stress. There's a lot of shooters out there that don't really find big wind. Big wind is a totally different ballgame. That being said, there are a lot of matches out there that are super hard with no wind. We have 2-minute par times typically out west. You go out east, typically 90-second par times, and that's a whole different problem set in of itself. Again, everywhere you go, there's a different problem set. I encourage you to travel. So, all that to say this, get out there, travel, test yourself, be honest about your performance, and if you do those things, you will grow as a shooter. Guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate you listening to my rambling thoughts. I always like interaction and feedback, so make sure you leave some comments below. If you like our stuff, make sure you subscribe and share. I'm always super humbled when you guys come up to us at matches. It's becoming more and more common, and it's really humbling and overwhelming, honestly. I've met so many people through this YouTube channel, and I greatly appreciate every one of you for watching and every view. So get out there, guys. We'll see you out there soon.